Hi there, welcome. So today I'd like to share a series of journeys. In these journeys we need a few things. We're going to need a map to tell us where to go, a compass to help provide a reference point. We're obviously going to need a bit of money for this. And then finally, we need the skills to be able to do whatever we want to do. I've been working on this journey for the past 6 years. And it all started with this. A few students wanted to learn about water pollution, and instead of just talking about it, I took them out into the field and gave them each a plot of land, which they then had to stake it out, and we watched how pollution in one area would impact another by adding some natural food dye to their water supplies. Kids loved it, they had fun, they got very dirty, and I noticed something that was really important in this process. They were incredibly involved in the politics and social elements of playing this role. So the next year, I decided, well, let's take it out of the field and more into the classroom. And I gave them this map to divide up as they saw, and each of them then controlled a piece of land that they would draw some small plots on and decide how they're going to use each of their acres. I used real Indonesian money, and this was great because I knew that it wouldn't be left on the floor without any use, but on the same token, I also realized that our in-game funds slowly started to increase every lesson as the less cautious students started to add money from their pockets to help them in the game. Well, it was good for me in the end, but it didn't allow for a completely realistic roleplay. In the third year of this, we decided to get a bit more involved. Instead of one class doing this for a unit, we worked on having the whole middle school. That was 5 classes at the time, and each class would have a unique island, as you see on the right, and these islands were divided up into plots, and they would function as their own government, and there was a lot of things going on between the different islands. They would affect one another, but then also have to create treaties and barter peace and trade negotiations. It became quite involved. Now, for the currency in this case, we adopted Dogecoin, which is a cryptocurrency, and this actually caught the eye of a number of people, including Cointelegraph, a magazine on cryptos. And slowly our students started realizing that their wallets, which I had shared on a public ledger, were getting additions based on anonymous people online. They loved this, the fact that people were giving them money for essentially doing a good job in this, and it became kind of like a bit more real to them that we were using these currencies. Now, here's where the compass came in. Before, we didn't have as much direction, but this time I brought in the compass education model, which looks at nature, economy, society, and well-being. And we just topically discussed it throughout and discussed how the different elements of this were played out in the game. So here's what one student had to say about those 4 elements, very simply, but quite elegantly. So you can see these are quite diverse, and it shows a lot of different 21st century skills being applied. From here on, we got a bit more crazy. We went into utopia, dystopia. In this, we really upped the story element of this unit. Now the students were in 2070. They lived in arcologies, and the world had become polluted to the point where nobody could live outside. Now, interestingly, nature had taken over, and it was more about humans not being able to live outside than actually impacting nature. So around these arcologies was a pristine world that was uninhabitable by humans. The maps got more complex. Each group was put into an arcology and given a space, and the individuals then would have to make alliances with their neighbors and decide the best course of action for their arcology. We also had scenarios that were widespread. For example, a huge migration influx, which then each arcology had to decide how they would use. Now in this case, we moved away from the Dogecoin to proper Bitcoins and used Coinbase as a wallet for them online. Now amazingly, this technology posed no issue for the students. After one class, almost everybody understood, and after 2 classes, they're already looking at ways on how to exploit or manipulate this system. The compass model was employed again, but this time it was embedded into how they were evaluated. So they would put forth proposals, and in their proposals they had to discuss how nature, economy, society, and their personal well-being were affected. These are just some examples of how the students' work looked. From here, we went on to last year's game unit, which has now become a all middle school tradition, and I wanted to take it off this planet. So I used the book by Kim Stanley Robinson called Red Mars as a basis, and we called our 100 middle schoolers members of the Nautilus, which is an adventure of colonizing Mars. And quickly, the map played a big role. We gave real satellite footage of Mars and set up squares where they're able to build. Now each time we've done this unit, we've been refining and making it a bit more seamless and less random. Here we decided to diverge from the cryptocurrencies because I wanted to really reflect a society that was post-finance. So currency wasn't a thing, rather elements were. And you can see the box in this photo demonstrating the elements that the students would collect. Now, we use the compass model again by having an addition and subtraction of different things. For example, the botanical park provides a bump on your nature, but it takes away from your economic benefits and adds a small amount to society and well-being. And other modules would then have their own effects. The students gain their resources this time rather than being given a stipend by doing a quiz. And this is one of the strange parts of green school. We don't do that many quizzes, so we had to think of creative ways to separate the students in our current classroom setup. Here's what a more finished product looked like, where you can see the module set down and the students calculating how many points they had in nature, economy, society, well-being. Now this year we're going on to look at it in a historical perspective, and we're moving into Indonesia. We've created our map, and we are getting students as we speak to design the game alongside the teachers. Now this is a new step for us, but we're really excited about the potential there. So what have I learned through this process? First of all, engagement goes through the roof. This is something that you can take 110 kids and 90% of them will be fully engaged for the entire time when you use a game as a platform for learning. The 21st century skills are practiced effortlessly throughout this unit. You have to use communication all the time, collaboration. You have to adapt to the scenario effects each turn. You have to solve problems as they come up. We don't actually have to apply gamification to our lessons in this case because the game does that naturally. And this is part of the reason that I think it's so interesting and effective as a tool. I'm learning that any topic can be covered in this style. So it isn't just about space games or land management, but we're really trying to show some breadth here by taking on Indonesian history as our newest unit. And then finally, we're learning that rather than making this entirely a teacher-designed experience, we can have students coming in on board with the design elements, and that only enhances the game. Thank you very much for listening. Have a nice one.